This episode of DR.STONE gave me chills. Information warfare led to an extreme, eventful episode of an intense game of tag that turned into a pincer maneuver, which then ended with the most emotional send-off that I can remember in quite some time. This was great, because Senkyu has not seen his friends for a very long time. He has not communicated with them for a very long time, so to get that reaction of a phone call, which is something I always love this about DR.STONE. It's the little things that you take for granted. When a loved one calls you, like, yeah, you're happy, but you're not going to get the same reaction versus someone who you haven't talked to for a year versus someone you talked to within that day, right? So to have something like this, where not only are cell phones, things like that, communication devices not a thing, you also haven't seen them for so long that you don't know if they're alive or dead, because it's not like they're in the modern world where they have hospitals and they have food and things like that at their disposal without much struggle. So to have that call happen, not only knowing that it works, you're not even worried at this point that it could be the enemy calling you. You're 100% confident that you're going to talk with your friend and you just hear those words. It's amazing to not only see them crying, but to see a reaction from someone who's usually that mad lunatic, the type of person who can always smile his way to victory and never show any real compassion in the sense that he's worried or he's afraid. He just will get the job done. He's the mad scientist. But to see those human moments, it makes them all the more powerful because you don't see them on repeat. So when we do see them, we know when he says he's almost moved to tears, he actually is. There's no malicious intent there. There's no mockery. He really was close to tears, and I love that about DR.STONE. I thought the idea of this episode was amazing. Not only the idea of trying to get the scout, because obviously she's been watching for a long time, using the explosions, luring her in, and then sending in your best warrior to try to capture her. But of course, when someone's a gymnastics kind of professional by the looks of it, I mean, if not damn talented to say the least, it's kind of impossible to catch her, and that's no surprise. So I like the idea of just this being one big game of tag, all things considered. And once again, having our boy one-up the enemy by using basically a flash bomb, all things considered, a flash grenade, blinding everyone. Though, I do gotta wonder what's going through Senkyu's head. He is not a brawny character. He's a smart character, he's not brawny. It's not like he's developed some mechanical arms that give him superhuman Robocop level strength. So him being the one to tackle the enemy, I'm very curious, because even an old man like our blacksmith would have been more suited to kind of hold down the enemy, because at least he has muscles. So the fact that she can just throw him off and make that whole sequence kind of like irrelevant was both hilarious and kind of disappointing, but I'm glad it happened, all things considered. I'm actually glad that it wasn't a very simple like, oh, you use these sonic explosions and then you capture her and then they just get to walk off to victory. No, I'm glad that she actually made them put up a fight, and the fact that there came a point where the question had to be asked, can I kill her? Because if I don't have to worry about stomping her, if I can just cut off her head, this will be probably doable. There's at least a 50-50 chance I can stop her if I have the ability to kill. And even though she's never killed anyone, this is someone who's trying to do basically warfare with no blood. And while that could be a child's thought process, in a world that's now restarting, the person who wins this war could define the status quo for many generations to come. If Senkyu is able to not kill a single person and stop this war without bloodshed, he very well could define a culture that does not have bloodshed in the future. It could possibly work. Even though it's kind of like this child's thought process, I think someone like Senkyu could see it through to the end. And if there had to be bloodshed, I could very well see very few people dying, all things considered. I mean, even Tsukasa himself, I think there's ways to imprison him and show that, like, hey, we can stop this without going to these extents. I mean, I think having their side not wanting to do it, it definitely separates them from Tsukasa's army, because Tsukasa's the one person who can crush a stone head and not feel any remorse, versus everyone else who, yeah, you have Magma wanting to cut him down, but even Gen himself stopping, saying like, you know, we can't do this. And it's something that you could say the easy way is destroying these stones so we can't build an army, but then the humanity side, knowing that they can be revived to normal people, could you in good conscience do that? And would you rather take the high ground, which is the risky and more unlikely victory route, or would you rather go the easy route and win it without much struggle? Destroy his statues, easily, doesn't have an army, then you can develop more weapons, and by the time he attacks, you can probably obliterate him without much struggle without even leaving your homes. But that's not the type of world that our boy wants to build. He loved the original world, but he also sees a path to make it even better. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with that. So the idea of cutting down the tree, making her think that, oh, we're putting in the communicator, so she's like, well, this is my one opportunity, cutting down the tree, there's no way to land from that height because you put it to such a degree, and then you catch her, and you actually sent someone who could restrain her. So I thought that was actually really smart. The biggest question I had while getting to the end of the episode was, how are they going to pass off the communicator? Because there's no way that these two could bring it back to camp and not have suspicions be kind of rose up there. So I like that the Senku's grave has been something that they've, like, probably every day. You know they visited a lot, so at least once a week, maybe every day, visiting it, probably talking to the grave. Eventually there'll come a point that the army doesn't look at them as being like, oh, they're trying to, communicate. So naturally, if you install a cell phone, a communicator device, it naturally will allow them to talk. And I thought it was a great way to basically cover up the fact that information warfare is happening, while also showcasing how powerful information warfare is in the pursuit of their, basically, spy, so to speak. The idea of using Morse code so you can basically do text messages through the ringing, I thought that's great. I love how, once again, Dr. Stone is taking something that, in probably any other author's hands, maybe there's only a dozen authors who could probably write it as well as this, that makes it feel like this realistically could happen in the Stone Age, but also showing the path to get there without being dry and boring in the process. I love that about Dr. Stone. It really does get you connected, and the fact that it can bring these chills, it makes me want to cry up alongside the characters. After how many episodes wanting to see these two, or all three, all things considered, reunited, it does make it feel impactful. And while we know it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, I'm glad that we got an ending like this to send us off into the future of Season 2 with some hopeful, optimistic natures, even though there is definitely some soldiers on their side that are a little OP, so to speak. Supersonic hearing, ridiculous gymnastics, they are going to have a struggle for sure. But I'm curious to see if Senku's going to be able to do this without bloodshed. I guess time will tell. I think Dr. Stone is going to continue to be one of those shows that even when Season 2 ends, even if Season 2 ends on such a satisfying note and for whatever reason we never get a Season 3, I'm going to always look at this show as being something truly remarkable that out of the past 10 years of anime, Dr. Stone is one that stands out to me as one of the best. It's so exhilarating, and I think that's such a great catchphrase for a character like Senku, because it makes you just in awe seeing something that shouldn't exist in this time period, but it is existing in a realistic way. And then when you get those emotional high moments, whether it's with the father, whether it's reunion of friends, just the little things that makes you look at your own world and your own reality and say, these are things we take for granted. And by the time you exit, an episode of Dr. Stone, in the case of this, the next time you get a phone call, you're going to think, or at least I know I do, I'm like, man, this would really suck if we couldn't have this anymore. And I like that about the show. Maybe people will say I'm being too sappy about it, but that's the type of emotion that Dr. Stone gets out of me. Something that I remember when I originally started watching, I thought would be fun to see Inventions, and I thought it'd be cool and fun, not emotionally engaging, but this show really is emotionally engaging. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on this episode down below. Did it get you as much as it did for me, or did you find it to be an okay episode at worst? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy and new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.